Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the athletes competing in the men's 10-meter platform event here at the FINA Diving Grand Prix. Athletes introduced in the order in which they'll be performing their dives. Please welcome diver number 1 from Great Britain, Robbie Lee. Diver number 2 from Great Britain, Ben Cutmore. Diver number 3 from Canada, Matt Cullen. Diver number 4 from Australia, Cassio Russo. Diver number 5 from the United States of America, Joshua Hedberg. And diver number 6 from Canada, Rylan Weed. Ladies and gentlemen, your finalists in the men's 10-meter event. We're moments away from introducing you to our officials. We are live streaming on cbcsports.ca and FINA TV. We're taking our production crew's cues as we get ready for our first dive. Tourism Calgary is thrilled to welcome athletes, coaches, and fans to the 2022 FINA Diving Grand Prix. For your guide on things to see and do in the city, and to find great deals on attractions, restaurants, and more, check out visitcalgary.com. Athletes in the final throes of their mental and physical preparations, they'll make their way up to the boards. They'll wait for our cues to get started on our first dive. 6 athletes performing 6 rounds of dives in front of our panel of judges. Only 3 people will make it to the podium here at the FINA Diving Grand Prix. You'll know exactly when our event's going to start when we get to our FINA countdown video. It's a 60-second countdown that frames all of our activities, and we start our live stream production of the first dive following that leader.
Welcome inside the beautiful MNP Community and Sports Center in Calgary, Alberta. Great to have you along for the final event of the 2022 Canada Cup. It's the men's 10-meter individual final. It's highly anticipated, and the crowd is in a good form after a really entertaining women's 3-meter final just a little bit ago, which was won by Sarah Bacon of the United States. My name is Mitch Peacock. Courtney Hattie is working alongside in color commentary. She is a veteran of Canada's national program, and I know you're looking forward to this, just like this big crowd is here. Always exciting to see the 10-meter final, and when you've got Olympians like Rylan Weens and Cass Russo as part of the mix, it should be very entertaining. I think this is going to be a very intense final. We saw some crazy things in the prelim and the semi, seeing some 10s in these events. The final, the pressure is on. They all know it, and they're all going to fight for that spot. And I mean, this is one of the most exciting events just naturally, and we're going to see some big dives and some big things today. You see the 2 Canadians there a moment ago, Rylan Weens. There's Matt Cullen getting set to go. Cullen part of a young brigade here as well in this final, 16 years of age. Josh Hedberg of the United States, my goodness, just 15 years old. He is an impressive talent, and the field continues with impressive names. Robbie Lee, 17 from GB. Ben Cutmore is competing here today. It should be a lot of fun as we take care of the final event of the finals weekend here in Calgary. All got started yesterday in terms of the finals with the mixed 3-meter synchro event. Canada winning there. In fact, Canada took all 3 gold medals in synchro competition to get it rolling yesterday. Synchro events wrapping up earlier today with 3 more events. And the medals spread around. Brazil won the mixed 10 meter. The United States taking the mixed 3 meter. And then the women's 10 meter synchro going to Australia. Individual events coming to a close with this 10 meter. And what we saw in semifinal A was something special with Cass Russo and Rylan Wiens going toe-to-toe. We saw the aforementioned Josh Hedberg on the screen just a moment ago, the youngster out of the United States. There's a look at Robbie Lee getting set to go. And sometimes those semifinals give us a little bit of a taste of what might be in store here in the final. I wonder if we'll see a duel between Russo and Wiens.
I'm sure hopeful. I mean, I have seen Rylan do some very crazy things before. Cass showing us that he has potential and, you know, potential to really potentially beat Rylan. So it's going to be, as Rylan might say, a barn burner.
Fitting for a guy who lives in Saskatchewan to call it that. Cass Russo was 8th in the 10 meters in Tokyo. And Rylan Wiens getting his feet wet on the Olympic stage there as well, was 19th in the 10 meter. 18 reaching the semis, so just outside there, but he's got all kinds of game. And you see him in the background there, Hedberg in the foreground. A little bit of that nervous energy and that picture of concentration, getting ready to go here, trying to execute over 6 dives before this panel of 7 judges to see where the final medals will go. There's the full field. Leon Cutmore for Great Britain, Cullen, Russo, Hedberg, and Wiens. The order of things here in the men's platform final. Canada leads the way in terms of medals with 7 so far. Great Britain on 5, the United States on 4. It's the 10 meter platform finals coming up next. Welcome inside the MNP Community and Sports Center in Calgary, Alberta. It is the men's platform final about to begin. Mitch Peacock with Courtney Hattie. Crowd is ready to go. Robbie Lee looks ready to go. 6 divers, 6 dives each for spots on the podium in the final event of the 2022 Canada Cup. Back after a couple of year absence and very well received in these parts. The athletes thrilled to see each other again. The community very welcoming. And let's get it started. Reverse 2.5 somersaults, pike position, Robbie Lee, Great Britain to get it going.
A nice way to start this event with that rip entry. Starting with the reverse 2.5 somersault, we're gonna see a lot of reverse 3.5s in this event, but still a lot of control on that dive. He sees his spot. He comes out at the right time, pushing out of that tuck way above the 5 meter. Entering the water with no splash.
He got his work done early and then entered that water very cleanly. And look at the scores, all the way up to 9s for Robbie Lee, who gets a pat on the back, well deserved. And a nice start to things as Tom Bellin comes over and has a word with Robbie. Onward we go. Ben Cutmore, teammate for Robbie Lee. Inward 3.5. Tuck position. Silver medalist in the 10 meter synchro with Kyle Cathari. Ben Cutmore.
bend, starting off with the inward. Now, athletes often like to start off with this. It does have a higher DD sometimes. Really great dive, just not a great bottom, unfortunately. Really strong off the top. Just not seeing and finding that water the way he could have. It's going to take a lot for him to recover to keep up with what we're about to see.
One of 2 divers to take on that challenge on the opening dive. The other will be Ryland Wiens. Inward 3.5 in the tuck position. So 2 from GB getting us started. First of 2 Canadians now. It's the youngster Matt Cullen out of Rosmere, Quebec. Forward 3.5 pike position.
Very nice from Matt Cullen. He has a gorgeous rip entry. He knows how to do these dives, starting off with the front, starting off with something comfortable. Very confident doing it, not too much thought. Really tight pike. He comes out, he finds the water. He does that perfect pike save under the water, minimizing that splash on the entry.
And look at those scores from Matt Cullen. A terrific start for the youngster who teamed up with Benjamin Tessier to post the 3rd best point total in the 10-meter synchro event. And sends a bit of a message not to be forgotten about here in this men's final. So Lee, Cutmore, Cullen, now Russo representing Australia, who won that great duel in semi-final A with Ryland Wiens. Inward 3.5, tuck position for Cass.
Cass set a good standard in his semi. He doesn't want to do worse than his semi in this final, starting off the event with inward 3.5. Really, really high above the board. He's finishing that dive about the 5-meter level. This is an experienced diver. He's been on the international stage before. He's been to the Olympics, and you know what?
How about that?
Some great scores for a first dive.
And he looks pretty relaxed too, having some fun. Big numbers from Cass Russo, some 9s, 83.20 for the Australian. Brings us to the youngest competitor in this final, Joshua Hedberg of Noblesville, that's Noblesville, Indiana. Forward 3.5 somersault in the pike position.
A nice first dive from Joshua also. He just looks so composed when he dives. He's very focused. Starts with a dive he knows how to do. Slightly short on the entry, just taking the water with his legs a little bit more than he'd like to. Easy to recover from.
I saw him about 2 hours ago in the fitness area here at the venue, and I thought he looked focused then. This guy's all business.
All business, and you know what? If that works for him, it's so great. Everybody has their own thing. Some people need to be silly. Some people need to listen to music. Some people need to be only focused on one thing.
Nice start for Joshua Hedberg. Brings us to the final competitor of the 6 in this final. It's the Canadian Ryland Wiens. Canadian champion on platform. Inward 3.5, tuck position.
Great work from Ryland on that first dive. Ryland is a very naturally talented diver. He totally understands how to do the dive, how to do it perfect for him. He has really great technique. He really knows how to make that water disappear, and he's starting off the event strong.
Born here in Calgary, lives in Saskatchewan, attends the University of Saskatchewan. Outstanding student, thinking about a medical career down the road. Got a pretty good diving career going right now. Outstanding stuff from Ryland Wiens to begin. Add it all up and you get 80, just in behind Cassiel Russo of Australia. So the tone is set, the gauntlet is down, and the 2 that went right at it, dive for dive in the semifinals, are back at it here in the finals. Matt Cullen of Canada in that third position, just ahead of Robbie Lee. Then Hedberg and Cutmore rounding out the 6. As we just nicely get things underway here in the platform finals.
We're going to start seeing some higher DDs in this second round, going from 2.8, 3.2, 3.0 up into the 3.4, 3.6, 3.7. This is when we're going to start to see the scores changing on the results list.
Forward 3.5 pike.
That is a beautiful noise that Robbie just made when he entered the water. Very strong takeoff. Makes the dive look simple. And when he enters the water, it's that perfect rip sound. He used his hands the right way. He can feel really good after that dive.
Won the 10 meter in a virtual event last year as part of the Grand Prix circuit. And look at that excellent work from Robbie Lee. It looked good, it sounded great, and the numbers go right along with it. As Lee stretches it out to a series of 8.5s and total 75 on his second dive. Here's his colleague, Ben Cutmore, 5th in the British Championship on platform. Reverse 3.5 tuck.
Such a difficult dive. There's a lot of technique that goes into it, making sure you jump high enough, making sure you spin fast enough. Just holding on the slightest bit too long, not sure if he was gonna make it or not. He should have pushed out a millisecond prior to land straight up and down and avoid that splash he got on the bottom.
So the timing just a little bit off for Ben Cutmore. As a result, the score is a bit of a dip. He'll file that away and get set for his third effort in just a little bit. 6 divers, 6 dives each. 7 judges taking care of things here at MNP Community and Sports Center in Calgary. Final event of the Canada Cup. And here comes Matt Cullen. Reverse 2.5 tuck position. Third after the opening round.
So very interesting on that bottom for Matt. Matt really knows how to put this dive away. He finishes it up high. He controls his come out. He just didn't reach back far enough, and so the water grabbed his shoulders, and that's where that splash came from. He just needed to stretch that entry the tiniest bit more, and it would have been completely avoided.
He's a guy who pushes himself. High standards. Those are good scores, but he'll probably be thinking, yeah, could have just finished it off a little bit better. Here's a man who has his own approach, Cassie Rousseau. Likes to have a little fun, smile. Great athlete. Background as a gymnast, switched to diving in 2017. Won 3 meter at the Junior Nationals at a year into his diving career. Now here he is, an experienced international competitor, an Olympian. First place after the opening round. Arm stand back, 3 somersaults. Tuck position.
Unfortunately, we've seen better from him. He came out of that dive really early, not waiting to see that third spot. He finished high, just should have held it a little bit longer. Hopefully he's able to recover from that, because we've seen some incredible stuff from him.
He's a scrapper. You're going to see him turn in 6 dives. He's not going to take any time off here.
I agree.
5s to 6.5 for Rousseau. He'll regroup. He's taking it in stride. And onward we go to Joshua Hedberg. Arm stand, back 2 somersault, 2.5 twists in that free position. Junior Pan Ams gathered a full set of medals. Gold, silver, and bronze. Gold in the 10 meter.
That was a very, very powerful dive. He's so young. He has so much more to do. His kip, that's where he takes off out of his handstand. Just a little bit too much under the platform, and he's getting too much rotation on that dive. It's a lot to control the rotation and the twist, and to not go over like he did. Hopefully just moving on to the next dive. It's a big dive for him next, is back 3.5. Something very different, not a handstand, not a twist, a completely different focus.
When we talk so much about the diving part of things, there's a mental part of things as well. These young athletes have a lot to learn on that side. So he works on all aspects of things, and we move along to Rylan Wiens, forward 4.5, tuck position. Needs 6s to move into the top spot. Still very early in the competition.
Gorgeous. It's such a high DD of 3.7. He's going to get some great scores on that. Dropping it the tiniest bit short. Barely noticeable. You just get to see it again here in the replays. You get to watch it in such slow motion. That's just where that tiny bit of splash came from. Still, he's getting really great scores on this dive, as you're going to see.
And as you pointed out, 3.7, as high as it gets degree of difficulty-wise in this event. And what a number that is. Nearly 100 from Rylan Wiens on dive number 2. So he takes the opportunity to climb into the top position. Robbie Lee sliding into second with a little bit of a miss from Rousseau. And Matt Cullen in that 4th position. But look at the advantage for Rylan Wiens after that sensational dive in round 2. Speaking of sensational, what a performance along with Nathan Zombor-Murray in the 10-meter synchro for the Canadian combo. Just getting to know one another in terms of that event. They know each other well as competitors and friends, but boy, they set a bit of a tone yesterday about what could be in store from them.
They absolutely did. They're 2 unbelievable athletes, and I'm really looking forward to seeing them more do their synchro.
Robbie Lee into 2nd spot after 2 rounds. Arm stand back, 3 somersaults. Tuck position. And a build on a good 2nd dive.
Super interesting. He was really just struggling with this in the practice. He wasn't having an easy time. When he was kicking out, he was bending his legs. Here he kicks out, keeps them straight, pulls himself in the water. He knew he was going the tiniest bit short. You can see when he pulls, he arches a little bit, sliding nice right into the water. That was really impressive considering what we just watched in the practice.
And sometimes you see an athlete who will struggle in practice, and then they find it when it matters the most. Those gamers who seem to be able to, I don't know if it's more intensity, the adrenaline, what it is, but something changes that they're better in the competition.
There's so many factors in these competitions, and each individual is experiencing it so differently.
On we go to Ben Cutmore. Arm stand back, 2 somersault, 1.5 twists. Free position.
A nice back arm stand. A lot of control in the handstand aspect of the dive. A really nice takeoff. Just not as smooth of an entry as he's used to. Just needing to tighten up things on that bottom to avoid that splash.
Won a European Junior Championship for his age group. Going back 4 years now, Ben Cutmore. And continuing to mature on the international stage. Just over 67 points for Cutmore this time. So it's on to Matt Cullen, the Canadian. Arm stand back, 2 somersault, 1.5 twist. Free position, sitting in 4th after the previous round. This is round 3 of 6.
nice dive from Matt. Really, really controlled handstand. A nice entry. Some really nice scores for him. Just keeping it consistent, and that's what we want to see.
6 to 7.5 from Matt. Competed in his first senior nationals at just 13 years old. Matt Cullen's been around a while. Here's Cassiel Rousseau. Back to work. Reverse 3.5 in that tuck position. He wants to up his game here and see if he can put the heat back on Ryland Weeds.
He's very comfortable doing that dive. He walks to the end of the platform and he goes. He doesn't want to think too much. We've definitely seen him do that dive a little bit better, just dropping it the slightest bit short. But like I say every time, it's an extremely difficult dive. There's so many aspects you need to think about and be focused on.
It's hard to believe he's only 5 years into his diving career.
It's really unheard of to be so good off the bat. He has that gymnastics background, which is huge, but he's definitely used it to his advantage.
Yeah, terrific athlete. Cass Rousseau, you saw the scores. He finds himself just in behind Robbie Lee. We've still got Hedberg and Weens to go to close out the round, and here is Hedberg with the back 3.5 in the tuck position.
All right, well, Joshua has set the standard for what a back 3.5 should look like in this event. He's so focused. He knows exactly where he was in that, and he just came out confident, found his entry, squeezed for it.
This is a young man who graduates from high school in 2025, doing this on the international stage.
The youngest one in this event.
Remarkable. Joshua Hedberg, yeah, don't adjust your set. That's a 10. Joshua Hedberg, tremendous. What an effort. He's bumped himself into second spot with Ryland Weens, the leader after the previous round, ready to go. Reverse 3.5, tuck position for the Canadian.
Ryland has so much height on this dive. He's spinning like a top. He's been having some trouble finding this dive lately, whether he's going a little bit too short, a little bit too over, just a little bit too over in this certain event today. It's unfortunate because we've seen him do this dive for 10s. The crowd goes wild. He knows he can do it.
Tops out at 7 on this one, bottoms at 5.5. Maintains his advantage overall, but the leaderboard looks a little bit different now with Ryland Weens, then Robbie Lee, then Joshua Hedberg into that third position, just ahead of Cass Rousseau after that outstanding dive from the 15-year-old American. So we have reached the midway mark of this final as Ryland Weens regroups.
Starting to get intense.
Yeah, it's picking up. Started out well, and it just keeps picking up. It's an inward 3.5 in the tuck position for Robbie Lee. Moved himself into position number 2. Had qualified for a World Junior Championship slated to be held in Ukraine. The event wasn't held ultimately, but he is here and impressive.
Really great takeoff, a nice tight tuck, straight up and down, just not finding that bottom in order to get that perfect rip entry. It's all about from your hands to your toes, the alignment of your body and how tight your muscles are. It's something you really need to practice, and it all begins with just entries. Simple fall-ins off the platform really help you perfect that rip entry, and then you start to add that into your more difficult dives.
Still some good solid scores from Robbie Lee, and we go to his teammate Ben Cutmore. Ben in the 6th spot. Back 3.5 tuck from Cutmore.
That would be considered to be very over. He just leaned back a little bit on the tower. When you have that lean back, it just changes where you see your spot, where you are in your somersaults. Just making it a little bit late for that come out. He jumped a little bit higher than I think he knew he did. Just landing over.
He had to adjust to his own strength off the start, and it was a lot to overcome. So these are proud, successful athletes. They don't like to see those scores, but you know he'll learn from it. And from the 2 GB competitors, on the first of 2 Canadians in this platform final, Matt Cullen, 5th after the previous round, stepping up. He was the winner in semi-final B, edging out Nathan Zombor-Murray.
He received 10s on this dive in the semi. Looking forward to see if he can do it again.
Inward, 3.5 tuck.
Wow, what a beautiful dive. He's showing that he's being consistent. He's starting to get that big list, keeping up with these international athletes, these older men, and entering the water with a beautiful, beautiful rip entry.
Yeah, he liked that one. The judges do too. Look, there's a 10 for Matt Cullen. 8.5 to 10. Well, there was an 8 in there as well, but outstanding stuff from Matt Cullen, who puts up a big 84.8 in round number 4. So good work there from Cullen. Make his case for a spot on the podium. Cass Russo now sitting in the 4th position and wanting to meet his own high standards as we get in the home stretch here in the men's platform. Back 2.5 twists.
Gorgeous. There's the cast we've seen. Twisting in gymnastics is not the same as twisting in diving, and for him to go up there and do a big dive such as this, we don't see them all the time, and to do it as well as he just did is extremely impressive.
3.6 degree of difficulty. A real challenge taken on there for Russo, and look at the reaction from his teammates. Judges with a reaction too. More than 93 points for Russo. Nice selection of 9s in there. And so a good bump up to the total for Cass Russo. He's making a move here in this round. Joshua Hedberg, USA. Tremendous effort in the previous round. Reverse 3.5, tuck now. Disappears.
Incredible, incredible dive from Joshua. He's so focused. He's paying attention. He has such a confident come out of that dive. And guess what? All of those things combined.
Here we go, the news coming down from the judges. There's a buzz here at the MNP Community and Sports Center, and there's a reason for that buzz. How about this for the young American from Indiana, Josh Hedberg? 9.5 from one of the judges. Everything else, a perfect 10.
That was an incredible dive. That sets a really high standard for the rest of the reverse 3.5s we're going to see.
102 points for Hedberg. Magnificent. Here's the leader after the previous round, the Canadian, Ryland Wiens. Arm stand, back 2 somersault, 2.5 twists. Free position. And there's nothing free about spots on the podium here in the men's platform final. The Canada Cup. Back with a bang after a 2-year absence.
I know everybody's happy to be back in Calgary. It's such a great host city.
Terrific venue, great city. And they're enjoying a great final competition here.
Not the best dive from Ryland today. Straight up and down, just not entering the water as he normally does. His body isn't in the position it needs to be.
So the scores go from 6 to 7 for Wiens. Who knows, he's got a little better at his game. Now where do we stand now? 4 rounds complete, just 2 to go. And how about that for a battle at the top? Ryland Wiens and Joshua Hedberg. Hedberg saying, don't forget about me, fellas. The last couple of rounds have been outstanding from the youngster. And there's barely anything to separate Wiens from Hedberg. Russo back into the 3rd slot. And Matt Cullen into position number 4. There's the man everybody's talking about inside the venue now. And he's regrouping as he gets ready for round number 5, which will start with Robbie Lee from GB. Back 3.5, tuck position.
Nice entry from Robbie. I was a little concerned the takeoff, a little bit whippy. Not a super high jump, more focused on getting into that rotation, but he knows when to come out. He finishes above the 5 meter, pulls it through, disappears into the water.
Took care of business early and dropped into the water nicely. Up over 80, almost 81 points for Lee, who scores between 7 and 8.5. Well-deserved fist bump for Robbie. Next up is Ben Cutmore. Ben Cutmore sitting in the 6th spot as he enters his final dive, and he'll want to just finish up with something to feel strong about here. Back 2.5, 1.5 twists, pike position. Second to last effort, of course, for Cutmore.
Definitely a recovery from the last dive we saw from him. Focusing on the entry here a lot more. Minimal splash. Hopefully we'll see him more on the international stage, adding a twist to that dive, upping the DD.
And there's some good scores there for Ben Cutmore. Nice bounce back. 7.5s. 72 in total. Showing some good mental strength there to get right back at it. And 1 more to go for him. This is round 5 of 6. Canadian Matt Cullen next to go. Making a case for a spot on the podium. Sitting in 4th. Back 3.5. Tuck position.
He did an unbelievable job of this in the prelim. Or sorry, in his semi.
Semi that he won. Just edging out Canadian Nathan Zombor-Murray.
I really love how confident Matt's come out of his dive is. He puts his arms straight down on his thighs, reaches back, just a slight bit of over rotation. He could have kept his hands on his legs a little bit longer to control that entry, but you know what? It's all part of the learning experience. This is one of his first times in the scene, well, his first time in the senior international scene. He's doing some really big stuff. He's got big dives. He's very impressive.
6.5 to 8 there for Matt Cullen. A lot of 7.5s. He gets a little bit of perspective there and has to feel good about what he's done here in round number 5. 1 more to go for Cullen. Looking strong. Brings us to Cass Russo. Back 3.5, pike position. Third after the previous round.
Back 3.5 pike. You know, we haven't seen any of these except for from Cass. This is an extraordinarily difficult dive. You're doing the 3.5 somersault. You've now put it into the pike position. I can only assume him being a gymnast in the past has been helpful. Just landing short on his entries today. He's almost too confident. He's coming out just a little bit too early on a lot of his dives we're seeing here today.
Australian team without much ability to travel the last couple of years with COVID. Did partake in the Olympics, but back on the road now, and a good experience for Cass in setting things up for the World Championship. All right, on to Joshua Hedberg, who's put together a couple of dandies over the last round. Inward 3.5. Tuck position.
Well, Joshua is here to get those top spots. His last 3 dives have been incredible. He really knows how to enter the water without any splash. You can tell he's focused. You can tell he wants to be here. He knows what he's doing.
And you have to admire his ability to execute. Yeah, it's unbelievable at 15. He's got 9s there. He's all the way up to 84.8 for the dive. This is a competitor who was 3rd in semifinal B, where his total was 425.5, and he's already up to 396.95 with a dive to go. So Hedberg taking it up a level here in the final to Rylan Wiens. Leader after the previous round, some work to do to maintain that top spot. Back 3.5, tuck position.
A nice dive from Rylan. He's so technical on his takeoffs. Straight up in the air, not a waver. Nice into that tuck. Watching for his spots. A gorgeous come out. He's such a beautiful, beautiful diver.
It shows the competitive nature. I don't know if he follows scores, if he thinks about that, or only thinks about his own game, but he needed something big here to maintain top position, and he was able to do it because Hedberg has been so on the last few dives. Not much margin for error for Wiens if he wants to win, and he's done himself a real favor here in pursuit of gold with that 84.15. So what are we looking at with a round to go? Rylan Wiens, Joshua Hedberg. Look at that. You can barely tell them apart. Robbie Lee in 3rd, Matt Cullen sitting in 4th, then Russo, then Cutmore. We thought we'd be in store for something memorable here coming in, and we've certainly got it. I'm not sure we expected the 15-year-old to be the one pushing for gold, but he is right there up against Rylan Wiens. Here's Robbie Lee to wrap up his list. He's got his eyes on a spot on the podium. Robbie with a back 2.5 twists in the pike. And yeah, he'll want to make sure he's in that top 3.
That is a really big dive. Robbie putting a lot of effort into getting enough somersault, enough twist to enter the water. Almost straight up and down, slightly over, but like I've said before, the judges would prefer to see that you're able to complete the dive rather than not. Not a bad way to finish this event.
Robbie Lee sorting through what he just did. He produces 6s all the way to 7s. Takes in a little bit of perspective after the completion of his list here. A good afternoon's work from Robbie Lee from Great Britain. Here's Ben Cutmore to close out things. Forward 3.5, pike position. Remember, 5th at the British Championship at 10 meters.
Diving is such a technical sport. Everything about it needs to be perfect if you want to get those straight 10s. Just a slight bit of leaning forward on this takeoff. His arm's not straight up in the air and he takes off, and it just pushes this dive far from the tower. You find it harder to control the further away from the board you're going. Just heavy on the bottom. Definitely a dive. He knows he could do significantly better.
Ben Cutmore with a nice round of applause here at the venue just off the downtown in Calgary. And his competition is complete. So Lee and Cutmore have finished things up. Matt Cullen's final dive is here now. The crowd buzzing as he sits in the 4th spot.
Also receiving 10s on this dive in his semi that he won.
He'll need 8s to get by Robbie Lee. Back 2.5, 1.5 twists.
A beautiful, beautiful finish for Matt Cullen at his first senior international event. You know, I love that he's out here and he's saying, look, I'm coming up behind you guys. I've got some good dives. I have power, I have strength, and more than anything, I have that rip entry.
If you're good enough, you're old enough, as they say in sports sometimes, and there it is. Outstanding stuff. Matt Cullen, 9.5. And he hears it from the crowd on hand here. That's outstanding stuff from Cullen, who will nudge in front of Robbie Lee.
Very happy with that performance.
Yeah, he will be delighted. Matt Cullen, 3rd best total in the men's 10-meter synchro, along with Benjamin Tessier. And completes a great week with a strong showing here. Cass Russo, forward 4.5, tuck position.
Something crazy to finish this event if he really wanted to push himself up to those top spots. Cass knows how to dive. He's a crazy diver. He has insane rips. He's so strong.
He needed 8.5s just to move into top spot ahead of Matt Cullen for the moment. He needed something special. He
was saving his best for last. He wants to continue to prove that he's one of the top divers in the world.
I think he was a little bit disappointed with himself earlier on and said that's enough of that. Cass Russo turning in something so impressive, almost 110 points.
You don't see that often.
6 of 6, that is remarkable. And Russo blowing by the rest of the field into the top spot at the moment with Joshua Hedberg set to go. Hedberg's going to close it out with the back 2.5. 2.5 twists. Pike position. He needs 6.5s to nudge himself in front of Russo.
A nice finish from Joshua. He had a really great takeoff, so strong in that dive. It's a difficult dive. Very rare to see a 15-year-old competing this dive. Just not the greatest entry, not what we've seen from him from those last 3 dives. He didn't need a super big score.
Tough to compare to those last 3 dives.
It really is tough to compare to those last 3 dives that he's been doing. He didn't need a ton to slip into that first spot.
Spectacular stuff from Joshua Hedberg. What a showing here for the young man from Indiana, as he gets 81 for that last one. And a hug of appreciation from his coach. So Hedberg moves ahead of Russo into the top spot. And that leaves one. Rylan Weens of Canada. Back 2.5 somersault, 2.5 twists. Pike position. 7.5s will give him the gold medal here.
Off this event strong. This is a newer dive for him. He hasn't been doing it for a ton of time. Not the entries we're used to seeing from Rylan in this event today. Just missing that something. He knows he has it. I'm not sure if he's just a little bit off today. Great diving still. We just know he can be that much better.
So remember, he needed 7.5s to get that top spot away from Joshua Hedberg. And it's just a little bit off for the man who was born in Calgary. A good showing, but he's going to have to settle for second spot on the podium here. The story of the day, the 15-year-old from Indiana, as he comes in and makes an impression. Joshua Hedberg, 15-year-old from Indiana, 477.95 to just get by Weems. What a showing from the young man.
We knew this was going to be an exciting event. We didn't know just how exciting and impressive. Very unexpected for the 15-year-old to come through and win this event, but he proved himself. And you know what? It's his focus, it's his dedication, and he is going places.
He's going places. He's also going to have to go back to high school for 3 more years. It's hard to believe. It's just remarkable what he's been able to do. Hopefully he can have good support around him, keep a level head, keep enjoying the sport, and just keep building on things. But he certainly knows what he needs to do to compete with the best. And now he's getting set for something special. He's getting ready for the World Championship coming up in Budapest, Hungary. Diving gets underway there in a couple of weeks at the World Aquatics Championship, and I would say that's a pretty good send-off for a guy looking to head overseas with some confidence.
Yes, definitely a lot of confidence heading over there. You know, it's good getting into the international scene and then heading off to these really, really big events knowing you have this under your belt.
So it's 3 gold medals over the course of the weekend for the United States, matching Canada's total for the most in that department. Any general thoughts as we wrap up a special week here?
I think it was a great weekend. We're so happy to start having these international events again. There was great diving, great people. We can't wait to do it again.
Outstanding stuff here in Calgary. Thanks so much for your efforts, Courtney. A pleasure working with you. I want to say thanks to Integrated Sports Systems and the entire crew, director, producer Mike Brannigan, Rod McCormick, sensational job in the venue here, Diving Canada, the sponsors, and of course you for watching. It's been a great week at the 2022 Canada Cup in Calgary. Thanks so much for sharing it with us.
Very shortly. Amazing highlight reel coming to you your way. Thanks on behalf of our production team. Mike Brannigan and his crew inside the production room, the studio, putting all the visuals together.